hello and welcome back to my channel, Love Without Limits. In this video, I'm going to share with you my current lower body routine. So if you want to see that, then just keep watching. I haven't shared any workouts really in quite a long time, and that's because I have been going back to the gym. So I was trying a lot of different at-home things when the gyms were closed, but they did open up fully and stopped closing down back in April. I was still a little hesitant, was waiting for dos, and didn't really go back until mid-May, now that they've been open for almost 6 months, about 5.5 months at this point. As I'm doing so, as much as I wanted to get back 4 days a week, crush it, get back to how I was looking, feeling, lifting pre-pandemic, that was not possible. I had been doing yoga, which I felt great. I've never felt more connected and stronger in my core, but I hadn't lifted heavy in so long. I have been easing my way into it, and I've been doing that by doing a lower body day, an upper body day, and then yoga throughout the week. If I can, getting a third day in the gym to do a lighter full body day. But as of right now, I am at least doing 2 days in the gym, and I'm really easing my way back into it. And I've also lightened up on the weight since, again, I hadn't lifted a year and a half before getting back into it. Didn't want to injure myself, and I'm also trying to do so with good form now that I have good core stability, and I really have a lot better mind muscle connection because of yoga. Incorporating that, doing full ranges of motion, that way I can get strong in the entire range of motion instead of half squats, which now looking back is kind of where they were beforehand. So I do feel a lot better, even though it may look like I've taken a few steps back in terms of what I'm lifting. But for right now, I'm really enjoying my routine, and I can't wait to share it with you. For my leg days, I do 7 exercises total, and I do 4 sets of each exercise, and the reps do vary depending on the exercise. So for my compound lifts, my deadlifts, my hip thrusts, and my squats, about 4 to 6 reps for each set. I also get those ones done first since they are my heavier compound movements. So as soon as I get to the gym, do a little bit of warm up, bit of mobility, active stretching, get my legs nice and warmed up, and then I start off with squats. And the reason I start off with squats before the other 2 compound movements is because with squats, you're putting all that weight higher up, and if you do heavy deadlifts, that kind of tire out your back, and then you go to put weight on your back, that's just super dangerous. So if you are going to do multiple lower body compound movements in one workout session, do squats first. It's just safer. I do start off with squats. I do 4 sets of that, and right now I'm squatting about 115 pounds, and I do so with good form. I'm trying to break 90 degrees. I'm not doing any quarter squats like how I was doing previously. And when I do my squats, I have my feet a little bit wider than shoulder length, just because that is most comfortable for me in squats. Depending on your body structure, that can vary a little bit. And right now with the 115 pounds, I'm doing about 5 reps for each of the sets. And as that does become easier, if I can do 6 or 7 for 4 sets as I move forward, then I will go up to 120, 125 pounds, but I'm doing so slowly and safely. And another thing that I've really been working on with my squats, especially because of yoga, is focusing on keeping my core nice and firm, and also as I'm pushing down from the ground using my heels, that way I can really feel it in my butt and hamstrings more so than my quads, but really trying to have that mind muscle connection to my glutes and hamstrings, and really bracing my core and working with my core. And I'm breathing deeply and fully, while again they are lighter than they were before everything shut down. I actually feel even better doing them, and I feel even stronger using the lighter weight. The next 2 compounds that I'll do are deadlifts and hip thrusts. Which one goes second, which one goes third, depending on the availability of a bench to do my hip thrust. So if there's one available, then I'll do my hip thrust next, just so I can use it and get out of the way before somebody's using it, and then I'm stuck benchless for my hip thrust. For this workout in particular, I did hip thrust second, and I'm currently doing 155 pounds on that. That is pretty similar to where I was before, and again, I'm doing anywhere between 4 and 6 reps depending on how much energy I had after deadlifts as well. For these in particular, I did 6 reps at 155 pounds. Of course, these are super hard to do at this gym in particular. At the old LA Fitness that I went to, they did have round plates, which was so nice and just so much much safer when it comes to hip thrusts and deadlifts. But for these ones, they only have the hex plates, which is just super annoying. So waddle those on, and I feel like the bar doesn't get super even, but I try to even it out as best as I can over my hips. Push down with my heels. Again, this is something else that even just doing glute bridges, I've really honed in on and really felt the different connection from yoga. So if you think like, oh, yoga, whatever, I highly recommend just trying it a little bit. If you are somebody who's interested in lifting weights and resistance training, just doing a little bit of yoga will really help you make those connections and make every movement feel so much better. So for this, I push down with my heels, and the connection that I have is tilting my hips up as if you're about to tip your hips and like pour something down to your chest, if that makes sense. And then my knees, I rotate out as if I'm trying to push them out towards my toes, and really feeling that knee to glute connection using my hamstrings by pushing through my heels. And that really helps use my hamstrings more so than my lower back. This isn't a lower back exercise. This is a booty and hamstring exercise. So keeping that in mind while keeping your core stable and not really hinging from your lower back, because that can increase the risk of injury, and making sure that you're doing it from the correct area that you're meaning to work. And if that means stepping back and going a little bit lighter with it, then do that, because safety and your longevity in working out is way more important than one workout where you tried to go super heavy but ended up hurting yourself overall. And the last compound movement that I did, again 4 sets from anywhere between 4 and 6 reps, was deadlifts. So I just did standard deadlifts. Again, I wish there were round plates, because these hex plates, when you put them down, you end up on a corner of the hexagon and it like has to waddle to a flat, and it's just, somebody's gonna throw out their back on these. For this day in particular, I did 5 reps for each of these sets at 155 pounds. So these, I do feel like I've gained my strength back a bit more than, and a bit faster than with squats. But either way, started super low and super light when I did start going back to the gym, and I've worked my way up to this. And right now, this was about the second time I deadlifted at this particular weight, and I'm going to do it a few more times and gain that strength before I try going up anymore. I'm going to get comfortable in this, be able to do 6 reps for each set comfortably without any strain or any fatigue or losing my form, because that's also super important that each of these reps is done with good form versus getting super sloppy towards the end of it. Because if you do 5 reps and the first 3 look great but 4 and 5 are a little funky, then you didn't really do 5, you did 3, and you can lighten up on the weight, get comfortable at the weight that you're at. Similar to these squats, I have my feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart, slightly pointed out, and I do 1 overhand and 1 underhand grip. I just feel like it's a lot more comfortable, really bracing my core, having good posture while I'm at it. So I do try to tuck my shoulder blades back and down and really push down through my heels in order to have my glutes and my hamstrings raise me up. I have an entire video on deadlifting and hip hinging and practicing that movement so you can do it correctly without injuring yourself. So on my way down from the top of that movement, hinging at the hips, not bending from my back, especially from my lower back. It's not taking all the weight. It's not going to hurt me and lead to injury in the long run. And once my hips are bent, then bending at the knees in order to go to the bottom part of the rep. Having my shoulders back and down, again, has been something that I've really focused on and become a lot more mindful and aware of because of yoga, and because of really focusing and not just rushing through the movements, trying to get all the weight up like how I was before. I'm going into this so much more mindful and aware, and I feel like it has made all the difference. After my 3 compound movements, I go and do a few other movements in order to focus on areas that I really want to focus on. So right now with my lower body, my goal is to develop my hamstrings. My quads can easily gain muscle. I don't really need to work on them as much, which is also why I try to have that mind muscle connection to my glutes, because it's the back end that needs a bit more work for me. But more specifically, my goal right now that I'm focusing on is my hamstrings. Because of genetics, I'm never gonna be one to have a big booty, either in terms of just like that's where my fat goes naturally. It's not. So while I do focus on glutes with all of those compound movements, I also focus a lot on my hamstrings. So in order to do so, I do an extra movement for my hamstrings, and I just do straight leg deadlifts with dumbbells. So for these ones, because it's not a big compound movement, I aim for 8 to 12 reps because it still is a bit heavier. So right now I'm doing 35-pound dumbbells in each hand, and I am only doing 8 reps since I did just move up to that weight. But once I can do 4 sets of 12 reps comfortably with that weight, then I will go up a bit more. And for these ones, just like in that deadlift and hip hinge video that I talked about, and I will have linked down below, I'm hinging from my hip, but I'm keeping my legs straight. And I'm really pushing my way back up. Again, strong core, shoulders tucked, and I'm using my heels in order to have my hamstrings pull me up. By doing a few more with a bit of a lighter weight instead of just heavy deadlifts will allow me to really focus on that movement and target my hamstrings specifically. This is also a really good movement to do at home, so it's something that I was focusing on when I was still working out at home with the kettlebells. Of course, it's great now to have more weights to choose from, but if you're still working out at home, you don't have a lot of equipment, doing this is really great, and it's really, really good for hamstrings and does still also target your glutes while you're at it. The next exercise I do is to target my calves, so I just do the seated calf raises. You can also do these holding dumbbells or on the standing calf raise machine, but I've just been gravitating towards the seated calf raise machine. As of right now, I try to aim for 12 to 15 reps since it is a super targeted exercise, and I'm really trying to hold and squeeze my calves at the top to get the most out of it instead of just using momentum. So by slowing down your reps and really squeezing and feeling it, you won't be able to do as much at the start, but each one would be more impactful and more beneficial than it would be if you were just rushing through the exercises. And lastly, I like to just kind of burn my legs out a little bit, and not again by doing some exercise super fast and just rushing through it to where I'm not really getting the benefits from it. So what I typically like to do is 4 reps on the hip abductors and the hip adductors. That way I can kind of tighten up my inner thighs, because that is where my fat tends to like to put itself, like there and here. And then also just work on my outer thighs a bit, because I'm not somebody who has hips, which will give me that illusion of curves. So by doing this, and I'll usually aim for 15 reps for 4 sets on the abductors and on the adductors. As of right now, and for the last couple weeks, and for who knows how much longer, both of those machines are broken at the gym because people do really weird things on it. People are like standing up, and instead of like sitting down, they'll stand in front of the chair part and they'll have their feet on each of the things and they'll like do this. It's very weird. It's very interesting. So I'm not surprised that both of the machines are broken. So in replacement of that, I've been going to the seated leg press machine, and I figured that this is a good way for me to be able to do single leg presses on that. So for the last few weeks, since it is still a newer exercise that I'm incorporating, I've done it before, but it's newer in terms of the last 2 years of working out, that I have been going lighter, and I want to aim for about 12 reps for each set. That way I can really focus on it without overdoing it, because again, since it is at the end of my workout, I don't want to stack on a ton of weight and just really burn myself out too much. I want to be able to go a bit slower, a bit more relaxed, and still feel the exercise and get the most benefit from it. And I actually really like incorporating them, so I actually might just keep doing these instead of going back to those machines whenever they do get fixed. So for this, I'll start off with my left leg since it is my weaker, less dominant side. So always start off with your weaker side and then match that to your stronger side, because if you start off with your stronger side and you're like, yeah, I can knock out 15 reps on this side, and then you go to your weaker side and it's like, I got 8. So by starting off with your weaker side and matching with your dominant side, that will eventually lead them to become the same strength. And I've just been putting a plate on each side, so 90 pounds total, and sitting back, feeling it with my hamstrings and my outer glute. And this is also really good since it is a single leg exercise. It will help balance me out since everything else uses both legs for all of the exercises. And on my leg days, while I'm not doing any ab exercises, I'm using my core for all the compound movements, for really all of the movements, by keeping it braced and keeping it firm, which you can really do mentally and just tightening it up, which I'm going to say it again, but I learned from yoga. So by keeping that nice and firm and tight, you're not working out your abs directly, but in all the compound movements and all the movements, if you also focus on your core, it is going to get a workout. And it's also going to protect you by keeping you nice and strong and stable, so you can do the movements better, you can do them safer, you're protecting your lower back, and you won't injure yourself since your core is strong. And then once I'm home, I just work on some stretching, some more static stretching, since I can relax and just ease into it and really stretch out my hips and my hamstrings. That way they don't get tight, and it's a lot better than a few days after. I don't feel sore because I've managed to work it out and stretch those muscles while they were nice and warm and just worked out. So that is my lower body gym routine for right now. In my rep ranges, I do plan on in maybe another month or so, once I've had a good 6 months where I've felt comfortable in this rep range and can finally start to adjust it a bit more, I might play around with the rep ranges and then sticking with that for about 6 weeks, just so that way my body doesn't get so used to the same rep range all the time and it does challenge you a bit more. Switch it up like every 6 to 8 weeks. That way you do introduce a new challenge and a new stimulus to your body, and it does help you progress in the long term. But don't switch it up like every single week to where your body's like, well, what is going on? Are we even getting stronger? What are we lifting today? So some consistency is important, but also allowing for a bit of change every few months. That way you can challenge yourself and grow. I also just quickly want to throw out there that this is my experience and my current routine and my programming for myself after really struggling with my workouts and learning new things and trying new things and doing all these different programs for years, and finally finding what works for me, especially now that I'm barely, in the grand scheme of things, barely coming back to the gym after quite a long time off. So this is just what's worked for me right now. I'm not a certified personal trainer, although if a full-time job works out soon, I think I'm gonna finally sign up for that on the side, because it's been like 4 years of like, that would be nice to do. So might be eventually, but as of right now, I'm not, and that's just what works for me. And I hope it inspires you to get back into the gym now that things are open and really look at the gym as like, okay, I can start fresh, still have that muscle memory, but I can take the time off that I had and try new stimuluses and really work on my form, my depth, full range of motion, having a strong core, and just getting stronger and safer overall, instead of just getting into a rut and into a routine where you just keep stacking weights and could eventually just kind of lose track of what you're doing or risk injuring yourself. So that is my current lower body gym routine, and I hope you enjoyed just seeing what I'm doing and maybe even picked up a few tips and tricks. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment down below what you're currently doing in the gym right now and what you want to see more of on my channel. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. I upload a new video every Wednesday. So until the next one, thanks for watching.